Welcome to the Great Gundam Project. I'm your host, M. Jackson, stop stepping on my spots. Welcome to the Great Gundam Project.
Ba-ba-ba-ba.
I'm your host, M. With me is Jackson.
Hello. Hello.
If you are listening to us for the first time, this is a Patreon-exclusive podcast where me and Jackson watch every Gundam show ever made.
We've done the calculations, and in order to get to the present day, not counting any Gundams hypothetically made in the future, and also not counting, like, SD Gundam,
yeah.
This will take us 8 years.
A little over 8 years. It's over 8 years.
Yes, because we're doing 2 episodes a week in short episodes, and that's just how long it'll take. This podcast will go until Gundam ends, or we do.
Jackson.
Yes.
If people have never listened to us before, introduce yourself briefly.
I am Jackson. I am a British non-binary person on the internet. I am like 23, almost 24, and I've been podcasting for way too long. You can tell we've been doing this for a while. This is a big, threatening question. I don't know how to introduce myself. I'm kind of goofy. I enjoy the anime sometimes. I'm hoping this is going to be a good ride.
I am M. I live in Nebraska. I am 31. I am also non-binary. I don't like anime, but I love Gunpla, which is how I've ended up at this point in my life, where I'm doing a Gundam podcast.
I want some important context here to say that there was once a time when M loved anime. The time is now past.
So, Jackson, you've never watched Gundam before today, right?
No, I mean, I've seen episodes of Gundam before, but no, I've never watched Gundam before today. I have seen about 4 episodes of Gundam Seed in my time, and half an episode of Gundam 00. Okay. Back when I watched Code Geass and Googled as a teen, which anime should I watch?
Anything else is the answer, weirdly.
Instead, I didn't do that. I just watched Code Geass.
Okay. I have seen Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam 0079, if you will, which is the show we're going to be covering today and for the foreseeable future. And I've watched like 2/3 of Zeta, something like that. But yes, we are going to be watching everything. These will be weekly episodes. As Jackson said, we'll be doing 2 episodes every one of our episodes. And we have not watched the Gundam in advance past where I said I've watched, and we'll be going in release order. So this is not like a rewatch podcast. We're not Gundam experts. We're not going to be talking about the ways in which like 08th MS team ties into the show we're about to be talking about. We are just going to be watching Gundam as if we were children in 79 Japan, and we really liked robots, and we grew into old men who still really liked robots.
Most of this is true. Only a few details have been changed.
Yeah, no, just, those 2 guys in Tokyo Drift who were like just fishing while he's trying to drift and are like secretly the guys who invented drifting. That's going to be us.
That's us, but about giant robots.
Yep.
So yes, that is the breakdown of the frequently asked questions. 2 a week and release order. Do not tell us to watch something that is chronologically in advance. We know, we've done this. We're not going to do the compilation. We might watch them on our own time, but we are the full series in release order.
I will 100% watch the compilation movies and make the call as to whether or not we should cover them for this.
Okay, yes, we'll probably mention that we've watched them, but I meant like we're not skipping episodes.
Yeah,
we're
no, for
watching the full seasons, and we're doing them in the order that they were aired.
Yes. Outside of that, if you want to support the podcast, maybe you just heard this episode because someone retweeted it or whatever, you can go to patreon.com/abnormalmapping. You might already be there and watch this episode. Future episodes require you to support us for $1, but you also get like access to all of our other podcasts are free. We do a bunch of other podcasts. We'll plug them at the end of this, and then we never have to plug again because everyone who's listening is already supporting us. This is a plug-free zone after this episode. It's great.
It means the episodes will be about 5 minutes long.
That is not true.
That is not true.
And support us. We have different levels, but we wanted this to just be like a way to get sustainable support for our podcast network. So only $1 gets you this episode. We're not charging $5. We're not fancy.
Yep. Come on in, enjoy the Gundam. If you have not watched Gundam before, this is perfect. We're like we said, not gonna go ahead of ourselves or talk about 08th MS Team, or I don't even know what that is. Stardust something. Gundam. There's big robots.
If you were a Gundam expert, please don't spoil us.
Yes.
Just enjoy being mad at how wrong we are when we guess at what's going to happen in the future or whatever.
Because we will be doing that. And please do not add us with, oh my god, the thing in 3 episodes time, you're going to love it. Just let it be, and the journey will happen naturally.
You could probably DM me or something, but don't do that to Jackson. It makes them nervous.
It makes me very nervous. I get very over analytical about dumb stuff like this.
Yeah, I'll just enjoy the anime. I can do that. So that's it.
You
just want to talk about our 2 episodes, Jackson? Or we should do background, actually. We should do a little bit of background about the show. This is just going to be me reading Wikipedia. Are you ready for me to read Wikipedia at you?
Please pay for our podcast where we read Wikipedia at you.
We'll be talking about the episode soon enough, but, in case someone has never watched Gundam but still wants to listen to us talk about Gundam, I do that for some things, where I never experience the thing but enjoy a podcast about the thing.
It's true. We have both done that multiple times.
So, Mobile Suit Gundam was aired on Nagoya Broadcasting Network in 1979. It is directed by Yoshiyuki Tomino. It is the beginning of what was soon to become forever an infinite amount of years of content. But the original Gundam was actually canceled at episode 43 because it wasn't very popular. It only became popular because of Gunpla and because of being re-aired in the 80s. Go figure. That's kind of it. Gundam is like a portmanteau of gun and freedom, which is maybe the most hilarious thing in the world.
Yes!
Yep. It was originally going to be called Gun Boy, which is also a terrible name for anything.
Imagine. We would have... The culture would be different.
Yep.
Because it wouldn't... Gun Boy, fuck off. Like, no.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. We're going to take a short musical stinger break, and then we'll be back for the first episode. First episode we are covering today is the pilot. Do animes have pilots? Is it called a pilot when it's anime, or did they just make the series? I feel like cartoons can't have pilots by their very nature.
I mean, they can. Pilot episodes of cartoons happen all the time.
I guess they do.
Like, I know for a fact the anime and... Well, it's different now, but I know, like, manga has pilot episodes or pilot issues.
Okay. This first episode is called Gundam Rising. Yes. We are presented with the landscape of Universal Century year 0079, where everyone has gone out off of Earth into space stations in the, I assume, intervening 79 years, though they say it's been half a century. So, I don't know. 79 is not half of a century in any context.
It's been half a century, 79 years.
Yes. Zeon, which is on the space station that is furthest from Earth, has created a principality. We'll learn more about them later. And they have declared war against the Earth Federation, which was a terrible, bloody war in which half of the population of Earth and Zeon was killed in the first month.
That is a big bummer of an opening, point.
Yes. People lived in fear of their own actions, Jackson.
People were horrified of their own actions. We're using 2 different... I'm watching on the Blu-rays. You've got some fan subs,
yep.
And they're both good. They are. We did we made sure, and we lined them up together. and there's just slight differences, but they both seem completely competent.
Yep. Since then, since everyone was afraid, the war has been at a stalemate for the past 8 months, and that's kind of where we open up, where everything is bad all the time. Half of the population of humans are dead, Jackson.
Half of the entire population.
Yep. It happened 9 months ago. Everyone is dead.
That's like a jump cut genocide times 1,000.
Yeah, no, I know.
Just in the opening monologue. God damn.
So we open with 3 Zaku, which are the grunts of the Zeon forces. They are mobile suits. They're green. They're like the most popular. They're to me like the default mobile suit. When you say a mobile suit, I think of a Zaku.
They are the iconic Gundam. I know they're not a Gundam, but when I think of Gundam, I often think of Zaku. Like I either think of the Gundam or yes. I think of Zaku because they're the big mass-produced Zeon model right now, right?
Yep. They are infiltrating Side 7, which is kind of an off-the-beaten path, one of these giant space stations. They're like everyone lives inside the cylinder. Can
I just get a quick bit of context about what the sides are? Because the monologue doesn't make it clear. It's like they went into these orbital space stations, which I assumed were orbiting Earth, but they're not. They are alongside Earth's orbit. So
it sounds like some of them are orbiting Earth and others are orbiting in the orbit in which Earth orbits the sun. It's based on this like scientific principle called, where's the thing again? Lagrangian points, where to like preserve power and like align everything with the gravitational forces of like being in orbit with a planet, like you can be positioned at various places along that orbit. So like Zeon is like literally equidistant of Earth in theory, I guess, according to science. And then there's other sides that are like at like the 2/3 point between Zeon and Earth or whatever. And then there's probably ones that are like closer to Earth in its orbit. And there's like stuff on the moon. We'll get there.
Understanding this got me was how I was able to finally conceive of how they could like fight a war between two things that are like, it's not leaving the solar system and it's barely leaving Earth's orbit. Like it's not. I'm sure things will get more crazy as Gundam progresses, but it is only 79 years after leaving Earth, and this understanding how the science works made me understand this like scale of the places and how they're able to be so separated. So
yeah, Zeon's a long ways away.
Yes, I'm able to understand that more, and I feel like that is key information to have right at the top about how Gundam works.
So the pilot of the like lead of this infiltration Zaku group is called Slider, right?
No, Slender.
Slender, sorry. You're right. Sorry. You're right. And that's just me messing up. That's not translation stuff. I just couldn't remember. I didn't write it down in my notes. I have notes of what's happening here.
Yes.
So they're infiltrating because they received reports that the Earth Federation have like plans for their own mobile suit, because only Zeon has mobile suits at this point. And they're like, oh, we need to go get those plans, see what they're doing, and like steal them or destroy their research or whatever. They're going to figure out as they go. And they are being observed by Char, who is passing through on his spaceship. Char is just there by happenstance and luck. He is like hot shit ace pilot of the Zeon forces, and he's just like, oh, I was passing through and I'm going to observe their infiltration and be sneaky, because that's what Char does. Char is dressed in red and is clearly an upstart type, and we'll get to him more. He mostly just stands around this episode.
I like it a lot. One of my favorite things about anime is how much people stand around, and that sounds me being flippant, but I am a big fan of whenever anyone stands on a bridge and goes like, they've moved their thing this many degrees, we have to adjust. That is always a top pleasure of mine. So I'm told I'm going to enjoy Gundam.
So the interior of Side 7 is like, or all these sides, I guess, is basically like there's these giant cylindrical space stations where there's just like villages and fields and houses and stuff inside. And inside 7 lives a boy named Amuro Ray, whose father helped develop the Gundam project, or Project V as it's known right now. We open with Frau Bo, who is clearly like his like best friend in childhood or whatever, and a little robot named Haru coming to see him because Amuro is like not eating and busy researching and just being kind of oblivious. And I think this is interesting in the context of where we're going to get by the end of episode 2, in that I feel like Amuro is like presented as like, he's like a studious, like forgetful science type, but actually he just feels like he's probably like deep in denial about the fact half of humanity has died 9 months ago.
Yeah, like he's not shown as a nerd. He's not shown as someone who's like, oh, I'm super into this science stuff because he loves science. He just doesn't think. He's just like, he's kind of shell shocked at the start of the show, even before anything quote unquote bad has happened to him on frame.
Yeah. To the point where like everyone is like, oh, Amuro, he's kind of like disconnected, and everyone just kind of works around it, like realizing that he is clearly not dealing. It's not like explicitly remarked upon, but that's clearly how everyone is acting.
Yeah, and I think that is interesting in the way that Gundam is kind of gonna be the Rosetta Stone of this genre, and the many years of completely dysfunctional, shell-shocked boys that are to come. And how like definitely present it is at the start here, but definitely backgrounded as well. Like it's not, the show isn't dedicated to, oh, here's why Amuro can't function, but he has to get in the robot.
Yeah,
it's just like it's just a reality of the bad times that are recurring, because there's so many. First episode's 22 minutes, just an episode of anime. A lot of bad stuff goes down.
Yes, instantly as they're like driving along to like meet with his father or whatever. The Zaku's find the Gundam parts and everything and decide to destroy them, which leads to a bunch of explosions happening and chaos ensues immediately.
Yep. Char's really mad about this because he's like, God, damn it. Like, we had a really good research mission going here and you just got opportunistic.
Yeah. And so the Earth forces decide that they need to like scramble everything immediately. They had there was a ship that was just like docked there, like called the White Base, which is a big white ship that is very famous. It's in the opening. And they're like, we need to load the Gundam on here. If Zeon knows about this, we need to get it out of here immediately. And so they are beginning preparation to do that as the Zeon forces are like already trying to destroy the Gundam parts. In like the evacuation and the chaos, Fraubo's family just gets fucked up and killed immediately.
It's a really messed up scene. Like it was very affecting because the way it happens is Amuro and Fraubo are like running away, and a shell or an impact or an energy blast, I don't know, but there's a big explosion behind them from the attack, and Frau just goes flying, and then Amuro's like, oh fuck, is she dead? And like waking her up and like slapping her and saying, you're stronger than this, pull it together, you're gonna be okay. And so you think, oh, it's this really sad scene about these two people, and then instead what actually happens is she looks behind her and all the people that didn't make it are there, and it's all her family. Like she's like, mom, grandma, anyone, and they're all dead. They're all dead. Yep. It's so sad.
In this confusion, or like around the dead bodies is like a soldier who was carrying plans that his father had and is dropped. And Amuro looks at them and he's like, oh, this is what my dad was working on. This is the mobile suit that he's been busy creating. And like literally lying in the dirt as like a war is happening around them, Amuro just reads the Gundam plans, which is the most Amuro Ray thing to do, I feel like, immediately.
He says like classified materials, and there's like a half-second beat, and then he opens them and starts flicking through, and it's really funny.
So everyone is rushing around and it is just chaos all over. And, like the pilot of the Gundam who had these plans was, I think that's where he picks up the pilot was killed. And so Amuro's like, oh, if we need to get the Gundam out of there, then I need to climb into it because I understand these plans well enough to figure it out. And so Amuro climbs into the Gundam as the Zaku are happening, and the Gundam wakes up, and the Zaku are not prepared for the might of the Gundam, because even though Amuro doesn't really know what he's doing, the Gundam is like an exponential leap in technology to where they can't even like damage it or fathom how it moves. Like it is able to do hand-to-hand combat in a way that is implied the Zaku's cannot, like from the jump.
Yeah. So he starts by firing these head cannons or these machine guns at its head, but eventually is able to make it stand up, and it's definitely portrayed as more like organic than I thought. Like the Gundam wakes up as much as Amuro makes it stand up. Like there is a connection between it's not
they talk about when he's going through the plans that the Gundam has a learning computer.
Yes.
That like it's implied that it is like the new thing that the Zaku do not have.
Yes, and the Gundam is able to like stand up and rip off part of the Zaku's like technology. Like it looks like what would be on a human a breathing tube, but it's not because it's a Zaku. And it's Zaku, isn't it? If I say Zaku, I'm going to be mocked relentlessly.
Zaku. For
my Britishness.
Yes.
And just all these Xeon soldiers, or the other Xeon soldiers, like watch as they are completely outmatched, even though they recognize in the Gundam that the Amuro is terrified because it's not making any sense. It's not being controlled logically, but it's so much more powerful. And it's basically about Amuro like realizing, oh god, I'm in a death machine. And that's good because I get to survive, but now I've killed people.
Well, so he pulls out because like he doesn't have any guns because all the guns were like messed up in the attack, and so he pulls out the like beam sword that's in the backpack of the Gundam and uses it to destroy a Zaku. But when the Zaku's engine explodes, it's like a devastating like meltdown of its engine, and it blows a hole inside 7, which just causes like adds to the chaos. And like everyone, like there's like, you know, there's like air is escaping and everything is fucked up, and so he has to carefully destroy the next Zaku because he's like, I can't let the next engine blow up because Side 7 can't take another hit like that, so I have to pierce the cockpit and only kill the pilot.
Yep, and he manages it, but it's not good for the boy.
Yeah, no, he is immediately having to like choose to murder a man, not just defend himself, but like precisely kill a person because the weapon is too devastating to just be demolished.
Fuck you, trolley problem.
And that's kind of where we end, where he like, you know, he kills 2 of the Zaku, the third one controlled by Slender scurries off, and on the bridge of the ship passing by, Char is like, well, this all sucks, let's just blow the whole thing up, and shoots missiles at Side 7 as we end the episode.
And that's the end of the episode. Yeah, it's a big opening. It's it is hard with anime to introduce everything in the first episode because it's so short at 22 minutes, especially on a show like Gundam, which I know is a big ensemble show.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot has to happen, and I was surprised at how effective like the emotional beats were throughout. Like when all of Fraubo's family die, that's messed up. It's really sad. Like it actually gets you, and the bits where the Gundam stands up and fights back are really good. I don't know. I really liked it. Turns out Gundam's pretty good. Don't mean to shock you here.
Weird,
yeah. One of the things that I was saying to you after watching it was because most of my anime watching has been recent stuff, and even like the older stuff has been in the 90s anime. Anime doesn't look like this to me, and I think it's really cool. You can feel the fact that this is something that has been physically animated. There are moments where characters move along the background and you can tell it's like panes being moved across backgrounds that have been painted. It feels like a physical thing that you are watching in the way that even later anime before digital animation didn't feel like that, just in animation trends. And I really appreciate that. Like there's a moment where before he reads the classified materials, all the Gundam base is like attacked, and the explosion just changes to a completely different art style for a shot because they decided to just hand animate it that way, and it's very effective and something that would never happen anymore.
Yeah, no, there are moments in this show where you can like see the like roughness of like the line work in like the in-betweens and stuff, and it's really, there's just a very like handmade quality to this show that I have never watched an anime that's quite this old. Like I feel like my like old shows I've watched start in like the late 80s and early 90s, and there's something very special about this to me just because of its vintage.
And also because it's like, it is a TV anime from the 79, but it is also popular enough to have been preserved, and we're watching really high definition Blu-ray copies. Like that's a very specific aesthetic that is not the one of what the show would have been at the time, but one I appreciate a lot. Yeah.
No, it looks great. This is a very attractive looking show. Like it doesn't not look dated, but it looks incredible.
Because of how timeless the like actual design of the Gundam is, because of how influential it's been. The thing I wasn't prepared for was how the actual show is just this very deliberate retro 70s sci-fi aesthetic. Like look at those cars, look at those houses.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like there's a very specific like design principle to it, and the Gundam does mess that up because the Gundam itself is like a very iconic thing that like there's always a Gundam in every show basically.
Yeah, and the Gundam just looks like a Gundam and still does. So the reality of watching the show and being like, oh right, it's from the fucking 70s, and he's there in his vest with his 70s hair in his 70s future house getting into his weird orb car. Like and it just hits you, and you're like, oh, this is great. This is a much more specific and real thing than it was in my head when it was just this abstract classic that everyone said was good, which is the thing that happens whenever you watch like an old film that everyone says is amazing.
Yeah, the other like add-on to that is because everything feels so era-specific, but the Gundams feel very timeless, it feels like the Gundam, like the mobile suits themselves feel like they're like from another like reality dropped into this world and no one's prepared for them, which is basically the actual plot of the show, which is great, but it definitely holds up really well as that in retrospect because the like mobile suits are iconic, but the designs of people are not.
Yes, it is. It's very well served by the fact that it's inspired a lot of stuff. Often that works the other way. Not usually, but it does often work the other way. But here, there's that. There's also the fact that there are multiple lines like, oh, hopefully in the future we won't have to keep sending children to die in giant robots. And you're like, haha, dun, 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 dun. And so the fact that you know that these robots are just going to be around forever and the sad teens are going to be around forever works in the favor of this series. Maybe I'll be very exhausted in 7 years.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very exhausted in 7 years.
But
that's why we're only watching 2 a week.
Yep.
So that's kind of it. I want to move on to the second episode because there's more. The second episode is way busier than this episode, and we've already gone on very long on this episode.
I mean, that's the anime way.
Yep. So come back after the break for Destroy Gundam. Dun-dun-dun. Choo! So, the next episode, Destroy Gundam. Char's missiles hit the white base as it's trying to escape Side 7. Everything is fucked. Everyone's running around. Frau Bo immediately is shepherded into taking care of a bunch of orphans that are suddenly around because all of the adults have died or been evacuated into space, which I guess is as good as dead. Frau Bo and Sayla, who is another lady, are sent out to go gather any remaining people as everyone piles onto the white base. The white base is totally fucked because the captain's been injured, and so they're on like a skeleton crew of people who've just been in simulators or training. Everyone's given new assignments. Char contacts Vice Admiral Dazzle, who is a leader of the Zeon forces, and tells them about the problem. He's like, I need more Zaku, but I'm going to go try to take care of this myself as best I can. The white base, as it's about, or no, not before that, Char comes in and is taking pictures of the white base, taking pictures of the Gundam, taking pictures of everything. Char is super extra. He meets Sayla and recognizes her, and he's like, oh, she looks just like Artesia. And it's very dramatic in the most anime of ways. And then he takes off his helmet, and she's like, oh, I recognize you. And then he flies away. And everyone evacuates as everything is going bad. Everyone's like, oh, a kid's piloting the Gundam. And then he is sent immediately back out in the Gundam because there's no other pilots to fend off the forces of Zeon as they escape. So the white base is creating a distraction as the Gundam is attacking people, and Char gets in his own Zaku, which is a red custom Zaku, because he is the Red Comet, a fast pilot. And he and Slender and Amuro all have a fight in which Char is too fast for Amuro to hit, but Char cannot hit Amuro or he can hit the Gundam, but he can't damage it because the Gundam is that cool. Char has an amazing beam rifle, or Amuro has an amazing beam rifle that kills Slender in a single shot, and Char is so freaked out by this that he's like, well, next time, pilot, and flies away as everyone gets on the white base, now piloted by children, and flees to, I think they say they're going to Luna, which is like the lunar base.
They flee to this base on an asteroid, it says.
Right,
I don't think
right.
it's the actual moon, but there's a...
Yes.
I think it's an asteroid orbiting the moon, but there is definitely some asteroid that they are like, this is the secret base we have retreated to be the new hope for humanity. Ba-ba-da-ba.
Yep.
Gundam.
And meanwhile, Char's also going to like resupply and get new Zaku, and is like, I'm going to get that white base. I'm going to get that Gundam. And that's a nice short recap of a very busy episode.
It's a very busy episode. We put the recap up top so we could get into it because a lot happens in episode 2, because episode 1 has to like set up, okay, the child is in the Gundam, the robot is fighting, this is what is happening, but here we have to like establish the place, like it has to establish the white base as a ship that you understand. It has to establish all these other characters and their roles and give them like moments, because very few people but Amuro, Char, and Frau Bo actually get moments in the first episode, but here we have like Char and Sella get one. Obviously Amuro gets stuff in the Gundam. This random kid, I don't know his name, but the shitty guy who's like running away gets like a bit of characterization.
His name is Kay, and he is a major character.
I know he's a major character, but in this he's just a random kid. And I'm clear, like it's clear as he comes in, like, oh, I know exactly what his dynamic's going to be.
Yeah. So setting up some of the characters, you have Frau Bo, who is like already being like, she's going to take care of these orphans because now there's a bunch of like actual children on board, not just the space teens that we are following as like our main characters. Amuro's like the only person who can pilot because there's another kid who's gone through pilot training, but he's only been in a simulator. And then there is Mirai, who is just a lady who's like, I can pilot a ship because she piloted like just like storage ships or whatever. So she's like, I've done piloting. No one knows how to pilot. Bright is the guy who's like taking over for the captain because the captain is bedridden for this episode because he's been fucked up real bad. And then there's Sayla, who is very mysterious. And I think that's everybody that we're really given a lot of time with in this episode.
Yes, that is the main crew. And so one of the things I really liked about this episode is how in the first episode at the start, when Amuro refused to evacuate or just was being oblivious, he is reminded of the fact that, oh, Ray, I should probably leave, by this car driving past blaring this notice to evacuate. And in this episode, that's now Frau as she is driving in this car looking for more people. And I liked that I really liked how concrete the Gundam makes the like connection between the real world and the world where the fighting happens. Like, I know that's the whole thing with Gundam, is it's about how war is hell, but the ways in which it does that by making a whole world that still exists outside of the context of fighting, and we have these characters just going through their own homes, but there happen to be explosions around trying to survive. Like, that was super well done across these two episodes, and I really liked watching them together.
Yeah, I really like the evocative image of those, like the two women in the two cars just driving through this wreckage of a city, like trying to get everyone on board the ship before it departs. It reminds me a lot of the stuff with like the evacuations in Evangelion before like the ship or the city descends. But instead of the city descending, there's like no actual hope. This thing is totally fucked. They just need to leave. Like there's no like, we can bunker down and survive this. No, the white base just needs to get out of there before everyone dies.
Yeah, like there's animals on the side of the street that they're just going to leave. Yep. And you get this moment where Frau Bo is like remembering just, oh, I'm going to go see Amuro, like she just did. And it's a very good moment of making it concrete that this was just a normal place that they know very well until about 2 hours ago.
Yep. We are introduced to Char being the most all the time.
He's so much.
Where he flies into the like Side 7 base where the white base is, like on a jetpack taking photos as like dozens of people are shooting at him and he's avoiding all of them. Like his camera gets destroyed, but he escapes, and he's just like throwing grenades at walls to blow open holes for him to fly through. Char's a lot.
There's a really good use of a repeated animation for the grenade throw. It has the same arc of the throw and the same like door and the same explosion. But what it just ends up making it feel like is that Char is just like completely not even caring as he throws these grenades and just kind of floats into space. There's this. He's fantastic. You'll probably know what Char is, even if you've never, or who Char is, even if you've never seen Gundam, because you'll have seen him on the internet. He's the guy with the hat and the mask. It's very iconic character design.
He's very blonde.
Well, no, because at the start, I don't think you can.
Yeah, but he takes off his helmet, and you can see his hair underneath his helmet. He is very blonde.
Yes, but like he keeps that helmet on all first episode, and then he is in a spacesuit in the second episode where the mask is still on underneath, and the spacesuit itself has like a replica of the outside of the helmet on it, like for the silhouette. Yep. And so my assumption is just, he's never going to be without that. That is like the visual design by which you know Char. But then, like a minute later, he just takes it all off.
but like the mask is like a weird like strap that's like attached to his head with like a strap that goes like above the top of his head, like dorsally and everything. There's something very like dandified about Char that makes him like, and the fact that he's like people know who he is. They're like, oh, that's Char. That's the Red Comet. Like he is like the prince among mobile suit pilots, which is already like a rare new thing in this universe. Yeah. And so for him to just be the best at it is like, he has the swagger, but he backs it up.
Yep. Like, he gets into the situation with Sailor, and he's like, "Oh, this can't be. Oh, is this my sister?" And I'm gonna assume that I've seen anime before. They're probably brother and sister. That's my guess. I don't know.
I'm not. We're gonna have to find out.
They're brother and sister. I'm not doing this.
I do like that when she's like stunned to see him, his like the way that he gets out of it is he like does like a backflip to kick the gun out of her hand and just rockets off. It is very cool.
Yeah, and it's like a moment where Amuro goes to shoot him because Amuro's like, shit, there's a pilot there, and he just immediately goes behind the nearest wall. Like, his movement into tactics mode is very fast. It's very good.
Yeah. Char he rolls well all the time. He's great.
When he's flying out of the white base, because they realize there's an intruder in the ship, and they start going like, everyone who can fire a gun, get a gun. There's someone here, get him. And there's just this great shot of everyone, all these characters coming out into this hallway where Char's flying, and he's just kind of nonchalantly drifting past all these laser beams.
Yep. Yeah.
Half-heartedly throwing grenades. It's great.
And so the white base escapes side 7, and it's worth noting we're going to run down the equipment that they have because it is plot relevant, because like the resource stretch of everybody is like an important part of the plots of these episodes. So there is the actual Gundam that Amuro's piloting. There is the core fighter, which is like it's Gundam painted, but it's like a fighter jet that the other pilot that has light training is using. And then right before they leave, Amuro is escorting the gun cannon onto the ship, which is like, it has tank treads and like 2 giant shoulder cannons. It's like a land-based mobile suit thing. And that's what they've got so far. It'll all come into play in future episodes.
He destroys the other Gundam parts, right? He did.
Yes, do that. Yeah, because he goes down and like napalms them all so they can't take it.
Yeah, because
he just melts everything.
They made the decision to they have like enough for 3 more Gundams, but they decide to destroy them rather than risk Zeon getting their hands on them. Yeah,
and then they fly off, and Amuro has to confront Char and Slender, and I really like that Char's Zaku is just a Zaku that's red. Like, it's implied that there's like nothing actually special about it other than he is an exceptionally good pilot in a way no one else has learned how to be yet.
Yeah, because especially in future shows that I have watched, not in Gundam, but just mech shows, the idea of, this is an ace mech and they've got this is an ace pilot and they've got a special mech is like everywhere. That is the thing. But I really like that Char's just cool because he's cool. I'm sure eventually Char will have a special mech at some point in the future. I don't know anything about Gundam, but I'm gonna hazard that guess. But right now he's just cool because he's got this really good mech. And there's a fantastic moment where Amuro has the beam rifle, and he's basically looking at these 4 intruders who don't have any mobile suits right now. They're just in space, and he is like, even though he is murdered or killed in war, probably. Yeah. Even though
like he killed 2 pilots, but he's like, I can't shoot these guys. They're just people.
Yeah, and then when they get in their mobile suits, he's way more. He's better about fighting them, and it feels fine with that layer of abstraction. Feels more comfortable with that layer of abstraction. But when he has to like aim at just people in space, he's like shaking and he's not hitting, and the shots are going past them. And Char's like, "Don't move. You'll be more likely to hit. Just stand still while all these lasers come at you." Yep. Char's so much. I understand immediately why everyone's Twitter avatar is Char.
Yeah. And Slender gets totally fucked up, which you were surprised by, and I just didn't think about it because I'm like, oh, well, he's not a main character. But you're like, he's named, and I get it.
He's named. He has a conversation with Char that's really good for Char's characterization, because it's when he's like, we lost both our units. The thing is too powerful. And with any kind of bad villain, the villain would get angry and say, like, how could it be? You fucked up. You've disappointed me, my inferior, subordinate, blah, blah, blah. But Char's just like, okay, that's fair enough. We need to order some new ships. We need to do this. Let's go out on this mission. He's very logical and like very polite about it. I like that about Char. Char's cool. Yep. Team Char.
And then the last thing I really wanted to touch on is when Amuro gets back in the ship after everything, Bright basically gives him a dressing down for being like a kid who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, piloting the Gundam. He's like, you're the only one we got, but you don't know what you're doing. You need to like listen to orders and like do this. And Amuro's like sweaty and upset. And in any other anime and in the Shinji getting the damn robot way, like this is Amuro being like traumatized by this sudden influx of war or whatever. But in a lot of ways, this is like someone finally requiring Amuro to like be a functioning human where he clearly hasn't been in 9 months, and like him like coming out of being shell-shocked into being like actually confronting like the horror of his new, like of what life is for everyone now. And I really like that inversion, like retroactively, given how every other anime is about this stuff.
Yeah, like the trauma isn't the stuff that the bad thing that happens to Amuro here. The trauma is more just universal because of this fucked up universe. And so being given this purpose is what is like driving him to keep acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that about it. Yeah, it's cool. Good show. Good show.
Yeah. So that is the first 2 episodes of Gundam. We have so much more to go.
Oh, we got so much Gundam. Didn't we work
We've taken our first step into a larger world.
Oh, have we? Have we done that?
Yeah, we've done that.
All right. Well, it's crazy.
What were you going to say?
We worked out that it will be till January that we were going to be watching Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yeah.
2 a week, that makes like 21 weeks, 21, 22 weeks, depending on how we break down the episodes.
There will be a 1-3 episode somewhere. We'll probably do it right in the middle because there's 43 episodes of the show. But
yes, and then it's
that's it.
That's it.
We don't have questions. We like, I guess we'll take questions. You can send questions as always at podcast@normalmapping.com. But because we're not Gundam experts, asking us questions is probably really not helpful.
Yes, I sent out a call for questions and we got a couple. But the call was under the context of, hey, if you don't know what the show is, if you want us to lay down anything about what the plan is, please ask us now before, so we can put it in the free episode. But we covered all the bases. We got a couple questions about like actual Gundam stuff that we can't really talk about yet because it's stuff about the themes of the series. We didn't miss them, but we have made a conscious decision to keep everything focused on what has happened and leave the future undiscussed.
We probably won't put out a call for questions again until we actually finish a series and then like do it at the back end of every show.
Yes.
That probably makes the most sense.
That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. But you can always send them and we'll stockpile them, or if there are things we can answer in the day, we can answer them. So I think that's it for us. If this is your only time listening to us, Jackson, where can people find everything we do?
Everything we do is at abnormalmapping.com. There are a bunch of podcasts there. We do Abnormal Mapping, which is a game club that has its own URL, thebestgame.club. Second Officer Slog is a Star Trek book podcast. It's very silly. Please enjoy it. It is at StarTrekPodcast.space. The Amory Score is a podcast where me and Molly Reinbeck talk about the ridiculous songs and comics of Coheed and Cambria. It's a crazy journey. I endorse it fully. That is at ineedmayo.com. And I talk with Destiny Sturdivant about mental health at Goof.Zone. That is our other podcast. I am on Twitter at HeadfallsOff. And yeah, those are the podcasts. You can obviously, you can support us at patreon.com/abnormalmapping if you want to listen to more of these episodes.
Yeah. You can find me at em_being, and I think Jackson covered everything. We will be back next week in our first Patreon-only episode, in which we cover episodes 3 and 4. I don't have the titles of them, but whatever. They come in order. It's not hard. Figure it out. There's going to be more Gundam. There will be Gundam forever. We will all be dead before Gundam ends.
Amuro, 振り向かないで宇宙の彼方に輝く星はアムロお前の生まれたふるさとだ覚えているかい少年の日のことを暖かいぬくもりの中で目覚めた朝をアムロ振り向くなアムロ男は涙を見せぬもの見せぬものただ明日へと明日へと永遠に アムロ振り向かないで宇宙の果てにきらめく星はアムロお前が捨てたふるさとだ忘れはしない少年の日の誓いを青春をかけ守り抜けこの幸せをアムロ振り向くなアムロ男は寂しさ隠すもの隠すものただ明日へと明日へと永遠に覚えているかい少年の日のことを暖かいぬくもりの中で目覚めた朝をアムロ振り向くなアムロ男は涙を見せぬもの見せぬものただ明日へと明日へと永遠